or they're in.
Yep. Great. Welcome, everyone. We are very excited to have you here today. We might just give like another minute here for folks to join us. And in the meantime, get your questions ready. If there's anything that you'd like to ask Dr. Zarate or Sonia Vonat from our panel, go ahead and put them in the chat. They are ready. They're ready and raring to go. They're ready to answer any questions that you might have. So I've already taken the question on the lucky lottery numbers. So you guys got everything else.
So Jill, if you don't mind, if I could just give a actually fast presentation, a little bit about the SBIR so that you can all get a feeling, and then we can go and entertain some questions. So let me see if technology works for us today, and I will share this presentation. And let's put this in, where is it here? All right. Does everybody see the screen?
Yes.
All right. So welcome, everybody. My name is Sonia Vonat, and Jill asked me to participate in this panel. So what I want to do first is tell you a little bit about me. I own a small consulting business, and I help called UpSpot, and I help entrepreneurs and small businesses navigate the SBIR STTR program, what we're going to be talking about today, and hopefully having you get a better understanding of how this particular program can help startups, and in particular the minority-owned, women-owned, and Hispanic-owned businesses. So the SBIR STTR program was originated, at least the component for the SBIR, which is the Small Business Innovation Research Program, started in 1982. Currently, it's over $3.5 billion in non-diluted R&D funding or research and development funding for the small businesses, and it likes to fund early-stage, high-risk innovations. And the goals of this program is to stimulate the technological innovation, but also to meet some of the federal R&D needs. But it was designed to foster and encourage the participation of small businesses, in particular the disadvantaged, and the ones that are 51% or more owned by women, and that have technological innovation and ideas. And what we wanted to do, or they wanted to do at that point, is to increase the participation of the private sector. And I borrowed this slide from the ACA, so thank you, Jill. And the key elements of funding include the fact that this will be non-dilutive funding. So you're not going to give up part of the equity of your business in exchange for getting some money from the government. You're going to have your IP and your data rights still under some protection. And then it's designed to be a three-phase program. As part of that, the phase 3, you're on your own, and we're going to discuss a little bit about that in a minute. But it's vetted technology, and it's trusted. It helps you validate that your technology can work. So as I mentioned, it's a three-phase project where it's designed to get money from the government for phase 1 and phase 2. Under phase 2, you prove the feasibility of your technology. Under the phase 2, you develop a prototype. And under phase 3, it's designed for you to find additional funds to commercialize your technology. Basically, this is an old chart I have, but it shows the process that normally you have to find the funds, and you do maybe a phase 0, they call them now, where you do a needs assessment, some customer discovery. Then you submit a proposal, you win the phase 1, and you prove that your idea works. Typically, there's money there from $50,000 to $250,000, anywhere from 6 to 12 months. And then you you prove the feasibility, you're successful on your research on your phase 1, and you apply for additional phase 2 funds with the government, same agency or another one, and you increase the technology readiness level of your innovation, and you technically at that point develop a product or a prototype. And those phases give you quite a bit more money, but you spend about 24 months on it, or 2 years. And then you look for commercialization money after that to take your idea from the prototype to a product in the marketplace. When you submit a phase 1 proposal, you look for opportunities, you write your proposal, and then it goes to an evaluation process, and then they select the best ideas and give you an award. So why is this important for the Hispanic community? The program was designed to assist the minority-owned businesses, but the statistics and some research done in 2015 showed that only 7% of those awards were going to the minority-owned businesses. And what was worse, that out of that 7%, it was even smaller to the Black and Hispanic communities. Another study done in 2018 by the National Women's Business Council looked at, and I don't know specifically how the data was gathered, but at least it shows that there was some improvement, right? But we're still, of all the proposals awarded, only 14% is going to women. And what is also even a little bit more sad is that, 14% of that, 13% is going to companies where the technology is being led by a principal investigator who's a woman. And of those 14%, only 2% are Hispanic women-owned business in the STEM field of science and technology. As far as the basics, the program structure for a small business innovation research, where it's led under the small business and the principal investigator has to be employed by the small business itself. There's 11 federal agencies that provide SBIR funds. Under the small business technology transfer, which is designed to take the innovations and the technologies from the universities or from the federal laboratories or agencies through a small business to commercial market, that one does not require the principal investigator to be employed by the small business, but only 5 agencies provide STTR funds. Another mechanism of funding varies from agency to agency. You can have grants or contracts. Under the grant, the small business will be most likely defining the objectives and the innovation and who the customer is. Under a contract, the federal agency is typically the one who defines the objectives and the requirements. So it's a little bit more, structured towards what the need of a particular federal agency is, or for instance, warfighter needs as an example. This is just a breakdown for the budgets for the fiscal year 2020. As you can see, the Department of Defense is the one that has the most money, followed by the Health and Human Services and NIH, and then the Department of Energy. And so, as you can see by this money, this is a lot of money. There's over $4.2 billion that are distributed across the various agencies to give awards. And if we want to look at these agencies by breakdown of who gives contracts and grants, you will see that only the Health and Human Services and NIH and the Department of Education are the only ones that give out contracts and grants. So who qualifies? Small businesses that have focus on technology and who have an innovation or a good idea. They have to be organized as a for-profit. The place of business has to be conducted in the United States, and they have to be a legal entity with no more than 500 employees.
Sonia, I'm going to ask you to pause 1 second. are the attendees able to see the presentation? It looks like, yes, okay. We just had some folks that said that they might not be able to see it, but we're good. Sorry, Sonia, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll give a shout out. So what it is if you, in the top right-hand corner, there's a button that says view. You can change the view that you're seeing. If you hit standard, you should see this, the presentation as well as the speakers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you might have just had me. But I can make this presentation available, and then of course you could always ask any questions today or afterwards. And I'm sorry if I'm going really fast, but I want to have time for everybody to ask questions. So are you ready? Meaning you'd have to have an innovation and have technical merit. And then do you have experience? Do you have the qualifications? Do you have access to facilities? And do you have a technology that is needed out there, right? And can it be commercialized? And when you submit proposals, you're going to find that you're going to be evaluated along these lines. And for the purpose of time, I'm not going to focus on discussing what each of these are. But if you're interested, we could always do a deep dive for what what we mean for this on a follow-on workshop, or possibly even some of answers today. And in reality, this is not easy. It's going to be taking a lot of effort to do. Jill always likes to say it takes a village to have success, and it really does. And we're all here to give you, some support in doing it. You're not going to be alone, but typically it can take you about 100 to 200 hours to write a proposal, right? Unless you have a lot of background information or knowledge on the subject. It's not easy. There's not 100% guarantee to win, but if you win, it's really worth it, right? And you have to go through the painful stage of submitting applications. Sometimes if you do a grant, for instance, you apply through grants.gov, and you have to still have a DUNS number. You have to go through the SAM registration, which is another beast out there. And then depends on what agency you're submitting your proposals, you have to go through other sites as well. So I just point this out to let you know that it's part of the process. You have to register to be able to submit a proposal. And that is it. So with that said, I hand it back to you, Jill.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So Sonia has given kind of a 101 of the SBIR program, and overall, we're going to hear from Dr. Zarate on what it means for a small business here in just a second. But the other thing is, what can we do to engage or direct small businesses to resources? Obviously, this is, as Sonia has mentioned, a comprehensive program. So what are some of the things that you can do to be helpful, but not be an expert? So I'm going to share my screen here and give you an overview of what some of the resources are from the state. So the Arizona Commerce Authority has received the Small Business Administration's FAST grant, which is the federal and state technical assistance grant. This has allowed us to provide some funding for small businesses that are trying to go for or improve their SBIR proposal. You can access this, and by the way, we'll make these slides available afterwards, and Shimei has been kind enough to start our recording of the presentation, so you'll have both the video and the slides. The Arizona Commerce Authority has an SBIR resource center which is where you are able to apply for a $3,000 grant that will be used towards the SBIR proposal development. And so this could be a grant writer, this could be access to maybe core lab equipments through the universities. It could be to participate in an incubator program. This resource center also has a platform. It's a digital platform called the Innovation Network. And there it has access to different training modules. We also have other webinars that we've recorded based on different topics and things for you to reference, and some little quizzes to see if you're understanding the different concepts in the modules. We also have a grant that will be opening up soon. In June, the Small Business Administration has the National SBIR Conference, and we will have grants for about 6 to 8 small businesses to be able to cover their registration for the conference. If this is something you are interested in, I highly recommend attending if you're able. It is an in-person event, so you'll need to get to DC, but we'll take care of your conference registration. But the conversation needs to start now with program managers from the different agencies to better understand what they want and how your innovation or technology might fit. We also have some different university resources. So access to not only the researchers, but their technology transfer. They could provide teams to help you build out your teams. And then also a link here to their core facilities, which are, I've provided a sample of some of the different equipment that's available. One other thing that I thought was interesting is NASA has a space grant program that's run through the different state universities. And it is an opportunity to get an intern that is funded through NASA to help you with your innovation. And it looks like my link didn't go through there, but I'll hyperlink that for reference as well. And that's a free program, and what a great opportunity to make connections into NASA. So I'm going to stop sharing there. And next, I'd like to have Dr. Zarate talk. I'd like to have you maybe tell us what it's meant to your small business, and you know, how has that helped with your success? What has this meant to you, Naya?
All right, thank you, Jill. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, so I definitely have some slides that I can present on the company, but just as an overview to discuss what SBIR, STTR has done for continuous solutions, it's been really incredible in terms of growth. We've been able to get around, as of today, we've been in business for 8 years, and we've been able to have about $5 to $6 million of non-dilutive funding to support our research and development. And we also have, you know, for speaking from a purely economic standpoint, we have 3 years of funding committed to our company for the next 3 years. So what that means is that we're able to develop our products, our innovation. I'm able to hire more technology individuals. I can buy supplies, I can buy tooling to create my prototypes. And it has been really incredible working with the Navy. So that's who I primarily work with, is the Department of Navy, and specifically NAVC department. And like Sonia said, there are several other agencies that you can work with. We've looked at a lot of topics and solicitations that the government, specifically Department of Defense, promotes. And so under these solicitations, you can see where your company could potentially provide a solution. There are open applications as well, like NSF and I believe National Institute of Health, that allows you to submit research projects that are kind of open and non-defined by that agency. So if nothing under the DoD falls into what your company is capable of, you can go to other agencies and see what kind of topics they're looking for and fit your proposal with those interested agencies. So yeah, so I graduated from Purdue University with my PhD in engineering, and shortly after I graduated, I joined Intel. From Intel, that's when I started my own company in the interest of wanting to pursue research and development in areas that would affect the power and energy sectors. And so that's kind of where my passion lies, and the SBIR STTR program has really allowed for me to pursue those interests and passion in and finding solutions for our power and energy problems. So it's a really nice way to kind of fast track your business into product development without compromising the dilution that tends to occur when you're going through the investor route. The other thing that I like about the program is that it's very self-directed. It can also be a detriment as well, depending on how you orient yourself. So it's definitely for the go-getters, self-starters, and keeping a lot of things organized. So I would definitely recommend going in with a team of people rather than trying to do it yourself, and definitely working with local professors or research institutes that you can easily communicate with. And let me see if I can find my slides. But does anybody have any questions for me?
Okay. You had some slides that you wanted to review then?
Possibly, but yeah, you can continue.
Okay. So tell us a little bit, you're just amongst friends here. Tell us like the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, so this is the good and the bad thing, which is everything needs to be extremely organized and well thought out. So the minute that you get your phase 2 award, so your phase 1 award is pretty lax, right? It's a fixed fee based contract, which means that you get a lump sum of money at the beginning of your project and then at the end of your project. However, once you get invited to submit a phase 2 proposal, that's the larger amount of money. And so in order for the government to have faith in your company, you need to have a very strong accounting system. So this is bad because it's very different than just getting a lump sum of money or from investors. You have to really keep track of every hour that you're working, everything that you're buying, making sure that you have the contracts all sorted out. And this is also a good thing because it requires a solid foundation for your company, which is not very typical when you're just either beginning or in the middle of your company. As a business owner, you're just trying to move things along as fast as possible. And so the good part is that it really creates this foundational structure for a well-oiled machine, so to speak. The other thing, so, some of the ugly parts of it is definitely you have to create a timeline and a plan from the very beginning. So you have to be able to see 3 years into the future, and also 3 years into like what is that final product going to be, right? And think about all of the challenges that could potentially come between you and that end goal for the phase 2, obviously, right? But ideally, you want to have an idea in the phase 1 of what you want to be doing by the end of phase 2, because that's going to set you up with success, right? not thinking about the short term, how do I get the phase 1 award, the 125,000, but how do I take this idea and then kind of distill out the products that your company can commercialize. Because in the end, the agency, they want to see you succeed, but they also want that solution, right? And so if you think about the long game and figuring out which products you can distill from the problem you're solving, that will set you up for, number one, a commercialization bridge. So taking that product into market, not into the government sector, but into market, and then eventually proving that product to then go into the government sector. You really have to think about it not only in terms of solving the problem that they're asking for, but also thinking about, okay, that solution that I'm thinking of, can I package it into a product? And that can get, a little bit speculative, but if you can envision it or vision something vaguely and move forward, then I think that that's a super approachable way, because then you're not struggling in the middle of your project when the SBIR office is asking you, well, what's actually coming out of this project? How are you going to commercialize it? You can have an idea from the get-go. Which leads me to the next thing, which is there's a TABA, which is TABA, which stands for, probably Sonia knows.
Technical and business assistance.
There we go.
Yes.
Yes. And so it's you get a certain amount of money for phase 1 and a certain amount of money for phase 2, depending on your agency, that's allocated for you to get guidance from an outside agency. So you use that fund to pay an outside agency to guide you through that process of figuring out what the product's going to be, what are some other agencies that could potentially utilize that product, and then also commercial applications to that product as well. And that is super helpful once you win the proposal or the award.
So a question for you. I don't even know what I'm having for dinner. How the heck do I put all of that together? How do I do that by myself? How can the folks here help somebody that's coming to them to do that?
Yeah, so I'm with you, Jill. I don't know what I'm gonna have for dinner tonight either. But yeah, so that's kind of where the idea of it takes a village, right? So some of the strategies that I've used in the past are to bring in colleagues of mine or potentially partners in on the project for discussion. So communication is key with these type of awards. Communicating with your ecosystem, communicating with your research colleagues, communicating with the agency itself. So in each of those solicitations, there is a contact person on each topic. And there's a window of opportunity to go in and ask questions to the person who's overseeing that project. That window is super important to get your questions answered, because that's going to put you on the right track of what they are exactly looking for. You can even say, here's my idea, this is what I'm thinking to solve this issue. What do you think the pros and cons to this situation is? And that window is open for them to respond to those questions. They can be very specific or they can be very open-ended. After that window closes, then it's time to get started on your writing, right? So there's the solicitation opens. I'm talking purely on the DoD side and Department of Navy side. So the solicitations open. You have a month, I believe, or a month and a half to ask questions to the person who's running that solicitation. After that, the window closes. You have another month to write the entire proposal. Okay, so in that month and a half prior, you know what the solicitations are, you get going, right? So you want to think about, how do I distill these 50 topics down to 5, down to 2, down to one, because right now my resources are only, you know, 1 or 2 people can work on this and the other people are working on other things. Then from there, we think about our success rates, right? So each of these proposals are about 15 pages of writing, super technical, also setting out a plan for 3 years. You really want to make sure that you're going after topics that you know you can win, or at least have a high degree of confidence that you can win, that you have the partners in place to win what you want to do. So with that confidence starts to bring forth the vision, right? So the confidence is kind of leading in, well, if I do have confidence, why do I have confidence around this topic? And then how can I build those bricks to the pathway of success? And I'm trying to be as vague as possible, but as direct as possible. I don't know if that answers the question, but utilizing your resources on the technical side is super important. And then working with also potentially proposal writers. I know that people have worked with proposal writers in the past. I have not. I've just done my own. But it is very overwhelming, especially if you have a high degree of confidence and then you don't win. It's a kind of a blow. So I think that, you know, writing, having a writing partner, having 3 or 4 people to kind of shuffle through edits, having a Gantt chart. So they don't have it in the proposal template, I don't think. We use our own, but having a Gantt chart, which basically lays out month to month from the beginning of the project to, I typically do to the end of phase 2, month to month, and also divided up by milestones, how the project is going to be moving forward, and thinking about those key tasks on the project. So think about like maybe 4 or 5 major tasks that would need to be completed in order to get to the results of the final phase 2 product. From there, from those milestones or those task lists, then you think about how many months would it take to complete each of those tasks, right? And then with that Gantt chart, all of a sudden you start to see, okay, what are my risks of each of those tasks, right? And how can I prevent those risks to be high, to decrease those risks, I should say. What are the things that I can be doing to decrease those risks? Yeah, so that's kind of matrices and Gantt charts.
Thank you. Sonia, do you have some thoughts on ways that people can help do this amazing forecasting of needs? What else can these folks do to help prepare and strategize how they're going to attack these proposals?
Yeah. So assuming you know what you've distilled it to 1 or 2 topics, and you've talked to those topic authors or technical point of contacts. Each agency calls them differently. I'm a systems engineer by training, so the best way to tackle this is to define, okay, if it's a contract that you're going for, most likely the topic will tell you specifically what are the requirements and objectives that have to be met by your research, right? So then you take that, and if to meet this objective or requirement, this is how I'm going to have to break it down to. So, right. So you take each of these tasks and objectives and create your tasks that you would have to meet each of these, right? And so thinking of it in a strategic systems engineering manner, you're going to more efficiently break down what you will be doing in your proposal, and then you write against those objectives how you're going to actually do it, right? So that's one way of doing it. And then, of course, working with having a team that has the expertise to do it. So you're going to have potentially the team inside your company, which if it's the case of an SBIR, you want the majority of the work to be done inside your company, or you could create it as an STTR, where some of the work or the majority of the work could be done through the research entity like a university or a national federal laboratory, right? And when you do that, then that's another way to bring in additional expertise. Then the third way would be bringing in consultants or subject matter experts that can help validate the work that you're doing and make recommendations as to what needs to be done in that task breakdown. You could do the same thing if you were going after the grant, where you define the product and the innovation and how you're going to do it and who is going to be your customer. But going back again to the ecosystem in your community is you can leverage the expertise of either finding through the innovation platform that ACA has created. You can find subject matter experts to partner with, or you could find consultants such as myself that can help you with either the breakdown of those tasks or possibly technical writing or reviews, or we could approach it from what Naya was mentioning in terms of technical and business assistance, that if you do win, you can bring us on board and we could be your business development branch and help you with those services and tasks that the SBIR itself does not pay for, like marketing and market research and possibly IP and funding strategies.
Perfect. Shimei is going to get ready to open up the discussion to the attendees here. And I do want to just say this. We've gotten a little technical on the SBIR program. I hope we didn't scare you off. I am not an engineer. I am a marketing person. So talking about utilizing your village, we've got folks here in the meeting today that are from universities, chambers of commerce, Chicanos por la Causa, Prestamos, and other community members. We have a wide variety of experience. Let's tap into each other. Everyone has something that they can do to contribute and be able to, even if it's just an introduction. Let's do that. So Shimei's getting ready to do that, but if you don't want to raise your hand, if you just want to submit a question, please feel free to do that. But I'm going to just go back to one of the other questions that we had here. So we've got a lot of service organizations here. What if I don't have any clients that fit the SBIR program? How would I go about attracting these types of clients? How would I find them?
Is that a question to us or for them?
Well, actually, I will open it up to you guys, and then we'll see if we can get some, until we can get some of the folks open for the discussion here.
Sonia, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, what we want to do is raise awareness, number one, right? Know that there exist these programs and that there exists help and support for people who have ideas and innovations. And we have to let the community, specifically, we're talking about Hispanic, know that yes, it is hard, but they have brilliant ideas. Everybody has brilliant ideas, but they just don't know what to do with them. And they think it's too hard, or I can't do it, or it's not going to be me. So we as a community and with organizations like the folks that are present here today and working with us, raise that awareness that they're not going to be alone, that they can do it, and that we need to show off our capabilities from our Hispanic community and show that we could just be as good or better than anything that's out there. But it starts by letting them know that that these programs exist and that we exist to help them also achieve that success. So it starts with education and awareness.
Mhm. I agree. I mean, it's the famous question, the chicken or the egg, right? It's the where do we start and how do we start to like empower a demographic of people that are not typically in a field to be more proactive in for instance the STEM fields, right? And so do we start in secondary school? Do we start at the university level? Do we start at post grad, or do we start with the entrepreneurs? And I don't know if anybody has actually solved this question, but we have to start somewhere. And why not start in a place where there's already funding that's accessible? So what I would say is to the organizations that are on this call is look at the people who are leaders in their tech field, to whether it's at a university or whether it's in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and you know, just really leverage that leadership, because if we as people don't see ourselves being represented in certain places, specifically in STEM entrepreneurship, then how will we know that it's possible? And so I think like you know, leveraging the notion that nothing is, this isn't new, and there are Latinx people working on tech companies and doing it and winning SBIR awards. And we just need to find them and let them lead others to that place of success. So I think that would be one way, and then also the university level.
That's great. What I'd like to do is we're kind of bringing everyone into the conversation here, and we I think we have a dozen or so attendees. What I'd like is for everyone to take like 30 seconds, introduce yourself, and tell us where you what organization you represent, just so that we have an idea of who's here and who is interested and willing to help. Obviously, you wouldn't be attending this if it wasn't something that you had an interest in. So I'll go ahead and introduce folks here. Stacy, I'm going to start with you.
Great, thanks, Jill. Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Esposito, Senior Director at ASU, Fulton Schools of Engineering, and I work in the Vice Team for Research and Innovation. So although we work primarily with faculty, we definitely do have faculty that either are a part of SBIRs or are looking to work with SBIRs. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity that you're offering this expertise to those in the community that would be interested. So that's why I joined, if I can be a connecting point to faculty, because in addition to SBIRs, there's STTRs, which require university faculty to be involved in their research team. So I would be happy to serve as a connector there. Thank you.
Great. Amber, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what organization you represent?
Yes, hi, I'm Amber Cordova. I'm with Prestamos CDFI underneath Chicanos por la Causa. So clearly we work with a lot of Hispanic and Latino-owned businesses. We also have a ton of resource partners that are working with the community as well, and communities outside of Latino communities that are underserved. And when we were approached by ACA to kind of help strategize around some ways to increase the knowledge base of that in the community, I thought it would be a really good idea to bring all the community partners together and explain this program to them so that they could start identifying businesses that they're working with, even some non-traditional type of businesses that might be able to take advantage of this program. So I know it's super complex, and I appreciate you guys, hopping on and creating an opportunity for us all to learn more and how to identify and how to, help businesses that could potentially benefit from this.
Perfect. Kim Patton?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm going to leave my camera off. I wasn't anticipating to be on screen, so I hope that's all right.
Perfectly fine.
I serve as the Assistant Vice President for Research Development at the University of Arizona. And I appreciate the advice that was shared today, and I align with Stacy in that you know, we can help bring faculty to the table. And I know, Sonia, you're well aware of our efforts down here in Tucson at the University of Arizona, being a member on the Center for Innovation side.
Perfect. Ryan? Did you want to introduce yourself? Thank you.
Sure. Hey, my name is Ryan Winkle. I'm the Executive Director of Rail CDC, and we are a 501c3 place-based community development corporation that offers corridor development, small business technical assistance, which is our biggest thing. And recently we're doing neighborhood organizing and low to moderate income census tracts around transit and around resilience hubs. And so we've done technical assistance in a lot of different things. We're not a one-size-fits-all group. We do very specialized one-to-one specialized consultants.
Perfect. No?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. My name is Noe Gonzalez, and I'm with Prestamo CDFI. I also collaborate for the Minority Business Development Center here in Nevada. So I want to say thank you very much. The information is very useful. And basically what we are going to try to do is to get all this information together and start passing that information into our clients in all the markets that we serve, because Prestamo CDFI serves not only Arizona, Nevada, but also California, Texas, and New Mexico. So I think that at some point we are going to be able to make the necessary connection to get the dots together to see if these resources can reach the minorities that we serve. We know that it's hard because traditionally our businesses are not on that spectrum of technology. However, I'm pretty sure that we start looking carefully, we might be able to find one or two or three, we don't know, but we are trying at least to spread the word to see if we can come with something. Thank you.
Perfect. Andy?
Hello, everyone. My name is Andy Wang. I'm the Dean of Engineering College in Northern Arizona University. So we have traditional engineering disciplines. We have scientific areas. It's typical STEM college. So I'll be happy to connect you if you have any idea you need to find a faculty working with you. So we have a lot of faculty here already done that. But yeah, I'll be happy to do whatever I can to assist. Thank you.
Perfect. Rogelio?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I'm wearing my mask now because, you know, situation's getting hasty right now. Hi, everyone. My name is Rogelio Martinez. I'm with the Business Incubator for the City of San Luis. We're currently assisting tenants that rely on the light industrial industry. And we were looking forward to listening to this webinar, mainly because it is one of our priorities to try and promote and create the awareness of all the options that are available for people that are starting a business or that want to expand their business.
Perfect. And some folks have put their information and contact info in the chat. So please make sure to check that out. And Diane Moreno, are you able to access audio or introduce yourself? She works with Sunland Park and is the business coordinator there. So we've got a great representation across all of Arizona. You guys are here for each other. This is the beginning of your village, right? So don't be shy. Reach out to these folks and, you know, ask for the help that you need. I'm going to open it back up to you guys again. Does anyone have a question or comment? We've got some other questions here, but I'd love to make sure we get your questions first. Any questions? All right. So we've talked a little bit about how we can maybe try to help identify some clients, but how do I know when I'm ready for to discuss SBIR, STTR with clients? Dr. Zarate, what would have been helpful to you when you were starting out? What was most important to get the help you needed to talk about SBIR?
Yeah, so you know, in the very beginning, I was calling my my state business department, trying to get as much information as I could, and kind of had to piecemeal together. It was a good 6 months of research, just on the admin side of how do I register to be a minority-owned business? How do I register to be a woman-owned business? How do I apply for 8A, an 8A certificate? What qualifies me for that 8A certificate? How do I set up my cage number? How do I set up my DUNS number? You know, simple questions like, can I run my company out of my home, or do I need to have a like an office space? What types of structures on the business side, on the legality side, should I have in place? So all of these questions, I kind of had to piecemeal together and put my own little Word document together. But if there was some type of centralized, you know, SBIR playbook for companies to click on the document and see all of the information, because it is a federal level, it's very standardized, and it was a mystery back in 2014. Now, 8 years later, I'm seeing more and more resources pop up and a lot more webinars going on locally here in Portland, but also around nationally as well, as Zoom is being more and more prevalently used in these webinars. So yeah, and I can definitely share that doc if I can find it. It was a couple of computers ago, but I can definitely put together also some links and resources. A lot of YouTube videos now on how to set up your business, but I will find my own internal document as well.
Sure.
And there are, yeah, so I think that would be the most helpful. And then another thing was, you know, when do we protect our IP, right? Because that was a question that I had is, okay, now we're submitting this proposal. A lot of the IP is kind of encapsulated in that proposal. Should we be applying for patents right out the gate before the SBIR is accepted? And the answer to that question is no, not at all. You don't need to protect that IP until you start to transition out of the SBIR or want to commercialize it outside of the government. And so basically, you have data protection rights throughout the entire SBIR, as long as you're putting the distribution statement on each of the documents that you are sending over to the Navy. The distribution statements are basically like a confidentiality statement in which the agency won't share outside of that agency.
Thank you. That was great. Sonia, do you have some thoughts on some resources that people could go to that they could, you know, to be of assistance in helping their clients? What might be some other resources?
So other resources that I've worked with also and collaborated either with my business when I was starting out, because I've had technology companies as well as my consulting, is working with your local small business. What does SBDC stand for? Your local SBDC, which is the branches of the SBA that can help you with with forming a small business and a lot of the questions that Naya didn't know. But there's also the PTACs that are also, some of them are very well versed with SBIR, STTR, and they can help you with a lot of these registrations that need to be priorly set up before you can even apply for an SBIR or STTR. Thank you, Rogelio. I'm so bad with acronyms. The other thing is that when you have a good idea, then you should look at which are local incubators that exist. They could be either through the university, if you're a professor or a student, or you can see if you could participate and learn through the incubators, accelerators, because they will also provide the coaching and mentorship that you need and assess where you are and what you need to do to get ready to apply for these programs or to transition. And so that's those would be my recommendations, to look at the SBDC, the PTAC, the incubators, the accelerators, and of course, the universities. Because you could always partner up with the universities so that they could provide you with research facilities, professors, students. So, and you know, work with subject matter experts or consultants like myself.
Perfect. I've been asked for a registration list with contact info, so I'll go ahead and share that with the group here. If you do not want your contact information shared, just let me know. But I think pretty much everybody put it in the chat, but we'll go ahead and get something pulled together for everyone and send it out after. Perfect. I'm going to also put in, but unfortunately I can't multitask. So, but I will be putting in the chat the link to the Maricopa SBDC and Lou Farina. He is a tremendous resource with the SBIR program, and they also will do a free review of your proposal. Lou has also been a reviewer with the NSF and I believe NASA. Don't quote me. But that's another resource as well. Another question. How do I continue my SBIR education without being an SBIR company? So Sonia, I'm going to send that one to you.
Well, I guess there is now, like Naya mentioned, there is, through this pandemic has helped us be more connected through the Zoom. If you Google SBIR or SCTR and webinars, you're going to find that there's a whole bunch of organizations across the country, as well as the Arizona Commerce Authority or the University of Arizona or the ASU. There's all these webinars happening. You could also go online to sbir.gov, and they have tutorials where you could go in and self-educate through the process of what it is, what the program is, what proposals look like. There's all kinds of templates. You could continue communicating with us, because you know, we could be a resource to send you to the right place based on what your needs are. So that would be my recommendation.
Dr. Zarate, do you have anything else that you might add on that?
No, not at all. I think Sonia covered it. I think Andy has a question.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, either the Sonia or the Dr. Zarate, if you could talk about the review criteria. You know, there are different funding agencies and they might have different criteria. So for the beginners, what will be the things they need to pay attention to? Is there any commonality of those things they're looking for? I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
I'll get started from a higher level, and then Naya, maybe you could zoom into with your focused areas. But like I mentioned, there's the three criteria are centered around innovation, your resources, and commercialization strategy. So if you look at those 3 points or 3 major areas, most every agency will evaluate around that. Specifically, if we were going to look at, for instance, the NSF, they're also looking, and DOE in a way too, at the broader impact of your technology. So those are the key areas. With innovation, it has to be high risk and innovative and new, right? And in the case of NSF, they also don't want it to be like an enhancement or an extension to something that already exists. They want it to be breakthrough technology and high risk, high return. And in terms of the resources component, it's going to be in terms of who is your team and your qualifications and experience, as well as where you're going to be conducting your research. So you have to have adequate facilities. So if it is a question of whether you're going to be working from your home, is it sufficient? Or are you going to have to partner with someone who has the resources for the facilities like a university that you could do your test or your building of your prototype? So those are, the things. And finally, with the commercialization, do you understand the customer? Is there a validated need for what you're developing? When it's a contract, the DoD is going to be your customer, and obviously they have a need. But when you're applying through a grant like NSF or one of the other granting agencies like NIH, you have to be very clear that you understand your customer, that you validated the need, and that you know how you're going to be able to commercialize that technology. And so that's kind of like in as really quickly as I could possibly tell you the evaluation criteria. And as reviewers, because I've reviewed for several of the agencies as well, those are the kind of things that we're looking for in the proposals.
Beautifully put, Sonia. And yeah, I can't stress how much commercialization matters. It's so important, specifically because this is what's distinguishing the SBIR and STTRs away from other research funding, is the commercialization aspect of it. So it's the transitioning, it's the process of transitioning the R&D into an application or a product. And that is key in the evaluators' decision making.
Remember, this program is run by the Small Business Administration. So what they're looking to accomplish from this program are businesses. So this, to me, from things that I've heard and training and webinars that I've participated in, commercialization seems to be the toughest stumbling block. And I'm saying this because there's a couple things in my head, but Dr. Zarate, you've worked with the Department of Defense. And while the defense is your customer, were you making the widgets for the defense, or how did you go about the commercialization process for your proposal?
So going into the entire process from the beginning, I think I had like this very optimistic perspective that I would go and follow the path and then, commercialize the first SBIR that I won. And while we did get a phase 3, which is, the ultimate goal, we weren't able to commercialize it in the way that I thought we would be able to. Obviously, the device had like over 1,000 pieces or parts, so it wasn't very practical to make in high quantity counts. But we did have an opportunity to sell that patent and potentially license it. And so only now, the project ended in 2019, and only now we are getting interest from parties that would like to license out our technology. And the licensing process is considered a form of commercialization. So finding people, finding entities outside of your small business or your organization to partner with is key in that commercialization process, because no man is an island and neither are small businesses. We need each other. We need to work within our ecosystem to find those correct partnerships. However, with the next project that I'm on, it's more, maybe three components that are being arranged, that we are looking to actually go into production. So right now, we are starting our prototyping, and we're dialing in the low scale manufacturing. We're setting up pilots. We have letters of support, which are extremely valuable. So that's the other thing. It's like once you connect with outside industry, so maybe it's a large company or it's a person from the scientific field that has earned merit, you really want to talk to them about your idea, get them to support you by writing a letter of support and having them put their letterhead and signing that letter. It is a non-binding agreement, but what it does is it shows the reviewers that you are talking to other people about your idea and your product and gaining interest outside of the agency. That's extremely valuable in the process of the reviewers, or in the eyes of the reviewers. So I would say, working and following up with those partners, so those potential partners, and, kind of giving them an update of your progress, and maybe, having like when the pandemic is over, or when it's not hard to meet people in person, having the dinners, communicating with them, establishing relationships, because maybe not this year you're going to be working with them, but probably in 5 years from now you're going to be working with them. It's much longer of a process than what you think. That's what I would say, especially in my experience.
I think you have a pretty good representative case of commercialization. Sonia, I'd like you to clarify this, because I found this extremely confusing when I was going about learning all this. So phase 1 and phase 2, the agencies fund. Phase 3 is anything but agency funding. Explain what exactly that means, and why is that important? Who cares? If the agency isn't going to fund me, why should I care?
Well, just to differentiate, phase 3 comes from non-SBIR funds. That's the first clarification, right? So the agencies set aside funds for phase 1 and phase 2. Once they determine they have a need, or they want to fund an idea or custom. So they have funds for phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 3, that money, you have to either come with the money from a customer that's going to purchase it or license it from you, but it does not come from SBIR bucket money. In the case of the DoD, it could be a DoD program, right? It could be the Virginia submarine class that has a need to put in this software system that keeps the water system operating. So they have already, they call them programs of records and program element lines, that comes from the President Memorandum, that has a line item that says software IT for water systems, right? But the small business has to figure out that there is that and find the customer, so that, you have to find and create that match sometimes, but that will be phase 3 money, because it comes from pre-approved funds from the government to fund that technology that came from phase 1, phase 2 SBIR funds. So that's one way. If you go like the grant route, And sometimes the agencies themselves, they put out topics and there's never a transition. But if you come from a grant perspective and you identify the customer, the need, and you get phase 1 and phase 2. That's, why letters of support and customer discovery is so important, because you go back and said, well, you said there was a need. I validated the feasibility. I've created a prototype. Would you like to partner with me to further develop the project? Or it's in product readiness or commercialization readiness. It's ready to be on the shelf for you to buy. And then that they pay for it. So, right. So it could be partnership money. It could be licensing money. It could be possibly even venture fund money that is being used to further develop the technology. Phase 3 is money that does not come from the SBIR bucket, but it's still misleading.
Yeah. But it's still derived from the phase 1 and phase 2, or it can be a derivative of it as well.
That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in one case, for continuous solutions, we are currently right now working on a phase 2.5. So that's a second STTR. So we had our first phase 2 STTR, and they liked the research we're doing. They transitioned it into a second phase 2 SBIR, which is possible. It's additional funding. It's another 3 years of funding after the first 3 years in the Department of Navy. And we worked with a university research center that wants to put in our product into their lab upgrade. That is considered a phase 3, and the funding is coming from the Office of Naval Research. So it's not the SBIR STTR money. It is the ONR going to the university, then going to us, which then opens up the ability for a sole source contract in the area of your research. So sole source is super incredible because it's non-competitive. So then once you get the phase 3, you're eligible for more funding that isn't going to be competed in the open market because you have already proven interest in outside organizations than SBIR, STTR. Is that right, Sonia?
Yeah, you hit the nail with the two things I didn't comment on, the sole sourcing, and the phase 3 has to be derived or extended or further development on previous phase 1, phase 2 funded. But the sole sourcing makes it that you don't have to compete. It doesn't become an open competition, because a lot of these agencies, if they need something, if it's not SBIR money, it's not set aside money sometimes, and the competition is brutal. But if you've developed something under the SBIR program that they need, they have to sole source you and use you, which is amazing.
That to me is like one of the coolest things. Besides, what I'd like to talk about now too is, well, who cares if I commercialize? What does that mean to me? It didn't come from the government, so who cares? I could have just gone on my merry way and done something. What does phase 3 give you?
Well, it also gives you additional protection on your IP and data rights from within the government. So the more phase 3s you get, you keep on postponing. Mm-hmm. They have to keep on using you.
It offers an additional data protection, as well as an extension of broadening your family of products. So that's another perk about this particular phase 3, is that, yes, it is relevant to our phase 2, but it's an offshoot so that we're able to expand the products that we're developing. So it provides potentially piloting of your product.
Yeah, because it's derived, extended from the original. So
Yes.
it's brilliant.
Mhm.
It's brilliant. And I think probably that's one of the reasons also NSF wants you to start from scratch on the phase one, right? Because defining innovation for the other agencies is a little bit easier than it is for the NSF, where as long as like, well, my innovation depends on X, Y, and Z, so now it's this. With NSF, you have to be more careful how you do it. But the other thing that's pretty important is in terms of commercializing. Even if you have one of the purposes in terms of the SBIR is growing your small business, but I always in commercialization always like to use the term dual use, because the first use is the customer, right? Who you're doing this for. In the case of the contracting agencies, your customer is the one who's giving you the contract. Could be the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, NASA. But in order to commercialize sometimes and have high volume and for your organization to grow, you want to have that dual use. NASA might buy only one thing for the International Space Station, but that one particular thing, if you sell it on Earth, right, could be millions of parts as opposed to one. And so that is why the dual use could be what makes the company most successful, is because you show that your sustainability with the commercial dual use.
Perfect. What I'd like to do is I'd like to ask you guys, what is the most important piece of information that you take from this meeting? And then what I'd like to do is then I'd like to ask the group what they would like to see next. What do we do next from here? When we were talking originally, we wanted to try to help identify some potential clients that you think might be a fit for this and provide some like another 101 of the SBIR program. You know, what are the basics? But that's in our head. I sometimes forget that my background is marketing, but sometimes when I do remember, I remember that it's always about the customer. So you guys are our customers. What can we do to help you promote and support the SBIR program in your communities? So Dr. Naya and Sonia, I'm going to ask you quickly, what do you think is the biggest piece of information that we should take from this? Sonia, I'm going to ask you.
Well, I think that for me, the fact that there's still a need to get the Hispanic community engaged. When I did research for this presentation, I knew before it was bad, but it's still bad, right? There's been some improvement, but for me, the most important thing I gotten is that I see some really good organizations here present that are showing interest that we could work with to help increase the participation of the Hispanic community through your different organizations and through collaboration strategies, where maybe someone from that's a member of Chicanos por la Causa or is involved with that organization can now know that there's Andy and Stacy and Monica available to work to get the resources to get them help started. And of course, the ACA and the other community. And so for me, that's the biggest takeaway today.
Dr. Zarate?
I would say the biggest takeaway is, you know, this is a very, very strong program. It is transformational in the sense of small business, as well as connecting and providing a catalyst between university and industry by way of government. And I definitely believe that with the strength of the universities in Arizona, small businesses should have a very direct pathway to connect with researchers who are interested in working with STTR and SBIR companies. So on the university side, figuring out how to streamline access to professors who would like to participate in this program, and connecting them with technical business leaders, and whether it's Hispanic, Asian, white, or whatever, we just need to utilize this program much more in the United States in order to stay on the stay at the state of the art for our national security and all of that. So specifically in getting more Latinos or Hispanics into this program, I would say just provide an inclusive environment.
Great. I'd like to open it up to the rest of the group here. You've heard some things. What are some of the questions you have? What are some of the ideas? What can we do to take this to the community? If you want to go ahead and raise your hand, then I can call on you. I don't want everybody talking all at once like this. Andy.
Yes, I just want to say, Northern Arizona University is a mission, including that serving the community and serving the Native American tribes, and we are now as a HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution. So we have at least 26% of Hispanic students. So our state and the community has a growing population in Hispanic people. So, I think we, in order to get them involved, engaged, we need to show the value. And so we need some concrete action items to show this is what we can help. This is why you need to join us. This is how you can actually add value to your business or to your community. So I don't know how to do it, but I believe that is very important. So how can we show people that this is a SBIR, STTR is absolutely a value-added program. So we need to take advantage of it. Federal and different federal agencies, they are putting money in. We like to get a big piece of pie of those federal money, right? So we need working together to show the value and engage the community. That's just my comment. Thank you.
Okay. So I want to make sure I capture that. You want to make sure that we are able to communicate the value that the Arizona universities provide to the community, and maybe demonstrate some of those, how the resources that are available.
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Ryan, you had your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. I just have one comment, and I think that the really important thing to think about this entire program is who are we accountable to on this, and that's what should drive this program. So if we're accountable to the person who is trying to now, supply a service for a government agency, how are we making sure that that new landscaper has the documentation correct? How are we hand-holding them through that? Because a lot of these people, they don't go and just watch a seminar and then all of a sudden it happens, right? They really need a lot of help with Spanish translation, Asian language translation, how to, each step of the way is difficult. And we experience this every day, it's what we do. And so I just know that this kind of money coming into the scene with multiple different organizations, Amber and I are on a couple other groups that are doing this right now, and everyone's talking about the same thing. Nobody's really actually getting true work done right now in the field because the money just coming down right now. And so I think it'll be really important to remember who are we accountable to.
That's a great comment. And I will tell you this, one of the things that we had also discussed was maybe doing a follow-up class in Spanish. However, the program information is only in English proposals are only in English. And so there's a little bit of a struggle or a disconnect there. But would love anyone else's feedback on that.
And just in addition to, as an add-on, so the customer that you would be providing services for under the SBIR, STTR contract or grant is typically the government agency. So the SBIR program is providing the funds. Then you as a small business are providing services, majority of the time is technical innovation to the government agency. So you are going to be interacting with the government agencies in conveying the progress that you've made on the project that you were awarded. So it's typically not the service sectors. I shouldn't say so. It's not typically like you would never get an SBIR, STTR under landscaping or under construction or under like hospitality. If you had an innovation in one of those areas, so for instance, you had a novel material of cement or concrete that you wanted to explore further, that would be a project that could be funded under the NSF or potentially Department of Transportation or some agency that would benefit from that innovation. So that definitely needs to be distinguished between what the SBIR STTR program is. However, if there are services, there's the 8A certification for businesses. That is the small businesses providing services to government agencies across the board. So that can be landscaping, that can be construction, that can be cleaning services, all of that. And so those are two different programs.
Ryan, did that help? I want to make sure we're capturing everything that you were saying.
Definitely. Thanks for the clarification on that too. I'm just that when I signed up on this one too, there's a few other things going on, but it seems still that all of these programs are really to get, money and resources to the street, right? And so that's, maybe this one is a little bit less than that, but more into the organizations, but I guess thank you.
Yeah, and I'd say this has been the challenge, right? Is identifying those folks in the community and encouraging them to participate in the program. The technical side is tough. And it definitely comes through the universities, through the different schools, engineering and so on. But we've also seen innovative ideas coming from, Dr. Zarate really, I think, kind of addressed that, pointed that out. I might be in construction, but, I see that this concrete is, not the most efficient or whatever. And if I do some things this way, I bet it could be better. So we see ideas come across all different spectrums, and we want to make sure that we're educating and encouraging these communities to be able to access these funds. We've talked about the money that's behind it. It's life-changing. So.
Yeah, and there is an element of definitely serving the community in how do you set up an appropriate company with a strong foundation. That is undeniably helpful for anybody that has a company. And I think that's what you were getting at, Ryan, is like, making sure that we are giving access to everyone and the knowledge of structured companies that benefit the business owner as well as the employees and everybody all around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's perfect. And, just again, to that point, there's pieces of all of this that we can all contribute to. And that's what we want to do, is be able to connect the resources, because we don't expect everybody to be an expert in this. But we can hopefully, piece together our supporting cast and help these businesses be successful.
And then, oh, I want to add one last thing. It's kind of a plug, but it's super helpful. So there's the Latino Business Action Network, and that is a program that's accessible to any companies that are netting revenue over $1 million and that identify as Latino owned. And this is a program out of Stanford University where you can be admitted into a cohort for scaling up your business. And in addition to the LBAN, or Latino Business Action Network, there is a study that happens every year on the Stanford Latino Entrepreneur Initiative. And they're going to be delivering their results on the nation's status for Latino-led businesses. And that's happening this Friday. It's online, and I can send out a link if you're interested in hearing about businesses, how many businesses there are, the business sectors, and the like. So just let me know, or not let me know. I will send it to Jill. Jill can send it out. And then if you know of people who would want to participate in that program, I highly recommend it. I went through it in 2020. It was very valuable, not only on the education side, but also on just the network that's formed being involved in it. And the 1 million revenue is very, like, you know, flexible. It's you can be almost $1 million, or it just depends on how, you know, you're framing it. So yeah, and then there's also a list of venture capitalists or VCs that are predominantly Latino focused as well. And then there are also popping up around the US is Latinx business accelerators, specifically for Latinx business owners and entrepreneurs. So I can also provide a list of those as well. And we're trying to bring one to Portland, Oregon.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, there's a lot of synergy right now going to help the Latinx community. I just pointed out to one of my friends and customers, and from MedTech or something like that, they were giving out grant money, but one of the things was to be either Black or Latinx. And so we submitted an application for it last minute, but we didn't know it existed, right? And so you have to be like a hawk looking all the time. And so that could be another service that could be provided by your organizations, excuse me, is monitoring the activity of who's doing what and who's providing assistance and money, because there's also foundations that assist and are focused on that. So I recommend that you continuously monitor to see who's doing what and who's giving out money, because it will be non-diluted and helps fund the gaps between your phases, or while you're waiting to get money or your proposal, or in case your proposal doesn't win, right? You have to constantly find bridging money.
Yes. And then anyone else, any other programs, assistance, training that you'd like to promote here? And if you don't have the information handy, please email me. I'm happy to send it out in our recap as well. But I know we have some other amazing resources that we haven't addressed here. Terrific. Any other questions, parting thoughts? Great. Thank you guys for hanging with us. We know this was a lot of information. We hope this is the beginning, and we hope that we're able to follow up on this next. with some of the ideas and comments that you guys have had. If there's something else that you think of, tonight at 3 o'clock in the morning, shoot me an email. Let me know. Those are usually brilliant ideas. Thanks again for hanging with us, and we look forward to seeing the SBIR program grow here in Arizona. Thank you, Sonia, and thank you, Naya. You guys have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much, and feel free to reach out to me at all and at any time. I'm in the area of power and energy, but I'm also dabbling in material science. So if you know any professors in those areas, have them reach out to me. I would love to write a proposal with them.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And I can also help once you win.
Yeah.
With commercializing strategies and funding strategies. That's where it comes really fun.
And stay tuned. We have some more SBIR content in our partnership with the Arizona Tech Council and some additional workshops coming soon. Great.
Thank you very
guys.
much.